folks, it is me, 138 MMA, and I have a very special guest today. It is the one and only Jimmy Smith. I made that joke on Twitter, and you guys thought that was hilarious. The name's coming, we get it, but he is the greatest Jimmy Smith I've ever seen. Jimmy, how are you today? How's everything going?
Yeah, doing well, man. Getting ready for a hurricane that's supposed to hit the other
that's
side
right.
of the state. Yeah, I'm in South Florida. It's not supposed to be that bad down here, with like rain and wind and all that stuff. So getting ready for that. Other than that, everything's good, man.
There you go. Yeah, other than a hurricane, no big deal.
Other than a hurricane, everything's great. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. So, hey, I want to start this off by kind of just, talking about a little bit. First, how I discovered you. I started watching your everything back in, when I was in high school, which is a while ago, which might make you feel a little old, but it was with Fight Quest,
ancient.
which is wild, because that feels like forever ago, which maybe it does to you as well. But and then, I mean, you were with Bellator for like 17 years or something like that, maybe. Like, not quite that long, but like 7 years at least, like 5, 10, 15 years. I can feel like forever. Wow. You were the guy. And then, you're still, by my estimations, the best commentator in the game. So I've been a fan of yours for a long time. And I want to kind of talk to you a little bit about, for starters, what started at the beginning with Fight Quest when I first discovered you, man. Yeah. I imagine you get questions about that a lot. Is that true?
I do, and it's been so weird because it was so long ago. It's coming up on. We started filming 2006, so it's 18 years ago now that we started filming it, and then it obviously aired in 2008. We started filming it in late 2006. The idea that people are still so into that show, and
it was so good,
and people remember it, and when I get questions, that's what I usually get questions about. When people are really, well, the thing about being a commentator is you're not the show. Like, people remember events that I commentated. They don't go, wow, it was so awesome to hear you call this fight. I mean, not really. So Fight Quest was a show that was just about me and Doug. So people who watch it or into it feel like they know me in a sense that you don't get with commentary. So, I mean, I met Marcelo Garcia, as probably the greatest grappler of all time, at Abu Dhabi. I called Abu Dhabi a couple months back, and I had met him before, and I said, "Hey, how you doing?" He goes, "Man, I love your show." That's just right off the bat. I mean, like, legends are like, "Yeah, I love that show you did." So it's just so weird, the longevity, because what people forget is it wasn't a huge hit, man. It really didn't. They expected a lot of it. Yeah, I mean, I hear that a lot, but the idea that at the time it was really disappointing. Like, the experience itself of shooting was great and all this stuff, but the numbers the show got, and the I don't know how to put it. The initial reaction to the show wasn't what the network expected, and it really didn't do very well, and it went away pretty quickly. And I always say that the number of people who claim to have loved the show had watched it when it was on, it's probably still be around. But so it's weird, like that delay. It's almost like a movie that gets a cult following, and you're almost like, if you had gone to the theater and watched it when it was out, it would have been a hit. But so it's always weird, the Fight Quest thing for me.
Yeah, it was on what, Discovery, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I imagine that's probably like the audience that is into fights and stuff probably aren't watching Discovery super often.
It was weird. It's a long story, but part of the thing was the guy who greenlit the show, and it was like kind of his baby and his idea, left Discovery while we were shooting it. And so the guy who came in, and this happens all the time in television, it's like, well, it wasn't my idea, so put it on Friday nights and don't give it any attention and don't spend any money on it. So, and then during the show itself, because new people were coming in all the time at the executive level, I remember, for example, the first episode, they didn't want to show our tattoos because that's a History Channel thing. They had all these tattoo shows. And then, like, the third episode, well, we want a younger demographic. Show all Doug's tattoos. Show Jimmy's tattoos all the time. And it's like, but like 2 shows ago, you said don't show our tattoos. Like, so we got all these like conflicting ideas about what the show should be and what, while it was being done, because the management at the top was changing all the time. And so the person whose idea it wasn't there when it came out, so it really didn't get the push that it would have had if that person had still been there. And it's weird, just all that stuff that happens network wise,
So realistically, the show, although it didn't take off at the time, now, like you said, it's like the thing you get people asking you about the most. So do you think in 2024, maybe 2025, we're almost at the end of the year, if the show came back, it would get the resurgence of like from the people that have the nostalgia from maybe watching it later, and it would be a hit, or is it just dead and gone?
You mean if like new people did it, like somebody else did the format or something?
Maybe you could even be like a producer on it or something, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I get asked about that. Oh, you need to bring back Fight Quest. Maybe. I don't know. It's part of it is MMA is a sport like the NFL and the NBA at this point. So it like the novelty of a lot of people didn't know a lot about martial art. They'd never seen jiu-jitsu before until Fight Quest. Well, now, I mean, everybody knows this stuff. So the travel aspect would have been cool. The immersive aspects, which made it a lot of fun, would have been really cool. The novelty of different combat sports. I think we're just much more educated as a culture now about combat sports than we were in 2006 when I was shooting it. So there was certainly that of it's people know it a lot more. And then you have this weird thing where anybody with a name is locked down. Right. Well, you know, what's funny? It's a funny story. And I guess I'll kind of break this to you because I didn't know this either. I don't know if it was, I think it was Human Weapon, which was the History Channel version, was supposed to be Kenny Florian, and Dave and Dana White wouldn't let him.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And Dana said, no, you can't do it. Yeah. So
I didn't even know that was a show.
Yeah. It's a crazy story. I fought the host of Human Weapon in my last MMA fight.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I beat him. And I tore his knee up pretty good.
Nice.
Yeah. And so it's this weird. His name was Jason Chambers, and Jason and I had this weird parallel life thing where we fought. I beat him. We were on competing shows. I was on Discovery Channel. He was on the Discovery Channel. He was on the History Channel. And then he was the first commentator for Bellator when they were on Spanish television, and they had a really small English crew. He was the first guy. And then I took it over and I did it for a year. So it's really freaking weird. It just,
that is really weird.
Yeah. And I have no personal animosity. We've touched base once or twice, you know, but hey man, how's it going? Whatever, you know, on social media. Hey man, good. I hope you're good. And you know, nothing, you know, it's just weird. Yeah.
Next thing you know, you're like you're like scrolling through like his Instagram. You see he took his family to the pumpkin patch, and you're like, guess we got to go to that tomorrow.
Yeah, I guess we got to do that now because I have to do that now. Yeah. So it was weird at the time. Yeah, but that's life.
That's awesome. That's so funny. Okay, so I got to ask you a couple more about the Fight Quest, and then we can move on to some other stuff. So when you were doing these, obviously, for you're in this, you know, whole crazy situation where you're just immersing yourself in a kind of a culture. How much of that was like real, and how much of that was like, all right, cut, we got to do this over again, and like, you know, whatever, like this didn't happen?
There wasn't a lot really. Awesome. Most of it was organic, and when we had to do something twice, it was, or you know, multiple times for a take or something like that. Even then, it wasn't fake. In Brazil, the final fight, we fought for like a half hour.
That's awesome.
For them to get enough footage to make, because like grappling, you know,
right,
can be a little boring, especially when the guys are good. So they had us do it 3 times. So I fought the guy 3 times. We were purple belts, I think, so 8-minute matches, like 24 minutes, almost a half hour we fought. And then they strung that together to make like one fight. So things, but it's real. We really fought. It wasn't, you know, we weren't screwing around, you know.
That's good.
He's a jiu-jitsu instructor in Northern California now. Igor Espeya. So he's really, really good. And things like that. So hey, run up that mountain a couple times so we can get shots of you running up the mountain. I really ran up the mountain. It wasn't like they faked me run up the mountain. I had to run up the mountain 2 times. So we did do things multiple, but it was nothing like pretend to really get hit. The only thing that was totally for camera fake, they kicked me off a boat in Hong Kong Harbor for the Kung Fu episode because they thought it would look cool, and it did look cool. But the guy really kicked me in the chest, and I flew off the boat. But it was like it's supposed to look like sparring or something, you know. There were like the things that were fake but real. There is a gym etiquette where I'm not going to cripple somebody on my first day, right? So was I really sparring that first day? Yeah, but I was sparring like you would spar anybody on the first day. And I'm not,
Right.
so yeah. So it was as real as the situation warranted. And, every time. So there wasn't really a lot of fakey stuff. Yeah.
That's so good to hear. Cause like, watching that as, like a high schooler, I'm like, man, this is the coolest thing. And then I was like, this is a reality kind of TV show. I wonder if it's legit. But
things like, okay, in Kyokushin, I had to break a bat with a kick.
Oh, jeez, yeah.
And like, we don't do that in MMA. I've never done. So they go, you're gonna break it back with a kick, and I looked at like, fucking really? Like, and I had the same reaction you did, like, really? I'm really like, and they went, yeah, no, and they unwrapped it on camera to show it was real. They went to a store and like it wasn't fake. And the instructor goes, be sure to kick through it and you'll be fine. Well, the first time I kicked it, and they include this in the show, he said, well, because remember, I'm listening to my instructor, but I'm going through a translator. He didn't speak English.
Right.
So you're going to kick here. And I went, okay. And I kicked there, but they weren't ready. They weren't holding the bat hard enough. And they dropped it because they didn't think I was going to kick right then. And I went, oh, okay, yeah, I'll wait for 1, 2, 3. And I remember online, people went, oh, that was a trick bat. And I'm like, no, I had to really kick a freaking bat. And I was as surprised as you were when they said, hey, kick a bat. I was like, what? And they go, no.
You sure?
Yeah, no, they my first, I don't remember if they included this in the show, but my first day in the Kyokushin gym, one part of their initiation thing was you had to eat this curry that they made in the gym. One of the guys was from India, and he made this curry that I'm from Southern California. I like hot food. I can deal with some spicy food. Mother effer. It, like, I know the shape of my intestines now because it burned. And then and it was so hot. And I'm just eating like, okay, you get haze sometimes, and this is the way it goes. And some of the guys who were eating it had towels over their heads and they were like sweating. And they were like, and the instructor turns to the translator and he goes, and I go, what? And she goes, oh, she says, you're very strong. Some guys pass out, have to take them to the hospital. And I went, are you effing? So like, it was almost like it should have been faker than it was. Like the producers just let me eat this stuff. And I'm going like, what is this? And they're like, I don't know, the instructor told you to eat it, you're going to eat it, And part of the deal was the producers weren't fighters. They're not martial arts people. They don't get how dangerous some of the stuff was. And so when Doug got injured in Japan, he hurt his knee and they turned to me, they go, Jimmy, what's wrong with his knee? And I go, the fuck should I know what's wrong with his knee? Like, I don't know. And they went, well, he's just going to fight on that. I'm like, whoa. What do you mean he's going to fight? It looked like a grapefruit. His knee was just smashed. And like the producers just didn't know. So when I had to like sometimes speak up and go, guys, he can't do that and fight tomorrow. Like, but we were in there led by people who didn't really know. So when an instructor goes, everybody climb 10,000 steps on your knuckles, the producer's like, okay, great. And then they would shoot it and like, with no thought of, well, he probably can't punch in the final fight tomorrow if his knuckles are swollen, whatever. So there were things like that. So it was almost like should have been more fake than it was. But it was like, it was legit, man.
That's insane. Okay.
When I fought in Japan, last story, I fought 5 guys in a row, and the last guy was a heavyweight Kyokushin champion, and he was gigantic. And I fought the 5 guys. Doug fought his 5 guys, and one of our PAs, like they call them fixers, like the people that translate for you, and like they know the city and all this stuff. There was 2 girls, and they ran up to me just sobbing, crying, and I went, "What's wrong? Like, are you okay?" They didn't get that it was real. They were like, this has got to be some demonstration or something at the end. When they said they're going to fight 5 guys, they thought, nah, they're not really going to. And we clearly, literally, really fought. And they were like, we didn't realize it would be like this. And are you okay? They're hugging me. And I'm like, yeah, I'm all right. Like, this is my job. This is, what I do. And same kind of deal. Like we thought it would be, some WWE thing or they'd fake something. I'm like, nope, I just got kicked by the world heavyweight Kyokushin, or he was a silver medalist. I'm sorry. And he kicked like a damn mule, kicked me right in the head. It's just, it's how it is.
What you do.
Yeah, that's what you do
when you're there. That's so crazy. What was the best and worst like place / episode just to be a part of?
Man, Japan's cool. Tokyo's
Yeah.
cool. Nothing will really top the first one in Manila when we were stick fighting, because we were both like just raw. We just didn't know. We didn't know what the show was about. They didn't, like, the producers were kind of making it up and going, okay, what are we gonna do? But that newness of your first time ever doing anything like this was Manila. But like I see, man, Japan's awesome, man. Tokyo is really cool. We had a really fun time, in those countries. Israel is probably the I guess worse. I had a good time doing it.
Right. I can imagine that, because that was the Krav Maga, I assume, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I imagine that one wasn't super fun to do. I mean, as far as like,
For a lot of reasons.
Yeah, I could imagine.
Yeah. For a lot of reasons, you're living in a barracks, you're living with the military. Like people don't like. I was talking to a woman who was an executive at Discovery Channel, and she goes, "Where did you stay when you stayed in Thailand?" And I said, "In a bunk bed at a Muay Thai gym." And she goes, "No, no, no. Where'd you stay when the cameras were off?"
Right
In a
there.
bunk bed at a Muay Thai gym. I don't know what to tell you.
That's
We got to understand, when it was over with, the crew just left. They went, "All right, we're going to our hotel," and I curled up in a bunk bed and slept. They didn't, like, once the cameras were off. When I stayed in Mexico City, all right, they only filmed me from sun up to sundown because they don't have any lights or anything like that.
right.
So 5 o'clock in the morning, my roommate goes, "Let's go, running time, bro." Okay, got up, got my stuff on. We went to a racetrack at 5 in the morning in Mexico City, and I ran 5 miles.
Insane.
No cameras, no producer, no nothing. You stay with us, you train with us. Get up,
Bonus.
road work time, bro. So, all right.
In
We
Mexico
didn't film
City,
it, we didn't do anything. That wasn't even in the show. Had nothing to do with it. So there were a lot of those moments of like, crew's not here. I don't care. 1,000 push-ups on your knuckles. You're staying here. You're doing all right. And so there was a lot of that. Yeah.
That's so awesome, man. Like I can't imagine that experience. That would be wild. So I guess before we run out of time, let's transition to how you got to Bellator. How did that come about?
I worked for a promotion called M1.
Mm-hmm.
That was when I first started doing commentary way back in the day. And a bunch of the people from M1 went to Bellator as producers or whatever. And it's just instructive in how this business works. That's how everybody gets work. Okay. Somebody says, "We need a commentator." And they go, "Jimmy Smith was pretty good." And they call me and they went, "We need a commentator." I went, "Okay, I can do that." Da, da, da. The people you work with on whatever gig it is, they all go off somewhere to work for somebody else. And at some point, "Hey, we need a guy to host a death show for this boxing thing." Well, Jimmy Smith is good. Okay, give me his number. That's how everything works in broadcasting. We don't send out reels and resumes, and like, it doesn't really work that way, right? You don't call somebody and go, "Your guy sucks, hire me." It doesn't work. It's, "Hey, we need somebody. Anybody have any ideas?" "Well, I work with this guy, Jimmy Smith at Bellator. He was cool. Is he available? I don't know. Let's find out." That's how it all works. And so that's what happened in Bellator. Is a bunch of the producers went over to Bellator. They needed somebody. I don't know what happened with Jason Chambers in the first season. I have no idea. They just said, Bjorn Rebney called me and said, "All right, well, you're on my short list of commentators." And I knew everyone in the Bellator tournaments.
Wow.
So he goes,
"That helps.
What do you think in tournaments?" I was like, "Dan Hornbuckle's a favorite at 170. I like Ben Askren. I saw him win his titles at Mizzou. Judo Jim Wallhead. I called his fight in M1 Global. Ryan Thomas, a bit of a dark horse. I competed against Jacob McClintock in jiu-jitsu. I can tell you from painful experience, he has great jiu-jitsu." And he went, "All right, you sound like our guy." Because I just know a lot. So, every division. I saw Joe Warren wrestle in college. So I just knew everybody. I knew Georgia Karhanian from the Southern California scene. I'd seen him inside. So Balquach, right? Southern California guy. I've seen him fight a million times. So when he asked me these questions, I was like, "You didn't have to ask me twice. What do you think?" "So-and-so's good, but blah, blah, blah." And he went, "All right, man, let's put it together." And that was it.
Yeah, I mean, that makes total sense. Like, clearly you knew what you're talking about, and they said, "Well, this is the guy." Because you were definitely the guy when I started watching Bellator back in the day, and you were the voice that I remember most prominently from Bellator, right? And I mean, always had good takes. You were, one of the better commentators I've ever, had the pleasure of hearing from an MMA perspective. And I'm not just saying that just because you're on here. You're definitely definitely the best color commentator.
Right.
And so when eventually you left Bellator, I thought for sure, I was like, oh, Jimmy Smith's going to the UFC. That's the place for him. And you did for a little bit, but
1 year.
It's really short-lived. Yeah, it was super short-lived. And I feel like they dropped the ball there because, but I feel like, did they leave? Did they kind of end that because they wanted to go with having a lot of their established stars be on the commentary booth? That's what it was. That's what I figured. Because not that their stars are bad, but they weren't commentators. You were a fantastic commentator. Some of them are pretty good now, but I was like, man, what are they doing letting Jimmy Smith go? But that is what happens, I guess. That's
direct quote. You were great. You did everything asked of us. Everybody really liked you. Our guys are sitting in that seat.
That's so rough, though.
That's what they said. That was literally what they said. They said, "You're great, but you're not famous." So
that sucks.
Yeah. My exactly goodness,
that's rough. So at back to Bellator for a moment. Yeah. When you were commentating there throughout, because you were there for quite a few years. I don't remember exactly how many months. It was
2010 to 2018. It's 7, 8 years.
So, 7, 8 years. Yeah. That checks out. Okay. So when you were doing that, was that how was it working at Bellator? Because I believe it changed ownership during the time you were there. Is that correct too? Yeah. How was all of that?
All of it was great until the year I left was when the writing started on the wall that there was a problem. And that's part of the reason I left was Spike was going away.
Yep.
So it was, hey, you're going to be on Paramount Network. All right. Where does this fit on Paramount Network? Right. And then you're going to be on DAZN and this and that. And there was just a lot of tension, oh crap, because when I was there, they started out on Deportes. Then I was at Fox Sports. Then it was MTV2.
Mm-hmm.
Then it was Spike. Then it was Paramount Network, DAZN. Then it was CBS Sports. Then it was Showtime, and that's it.
So many different networks.
They had 8 homes. Oh, so it was never and Spike was like, okay, this seems good. And as soon as Spike went away, it's just a lot of red flags went up to everybody. Okay, well, where do you put this product? Because the difficulty of being on Spike is it wasn't a sports network. There's no it was, we were between, lip sync battle and, cops. And you're like, okay, well, are people really wanting to watch that? So that was the difficulty. And that last year is when things started. The warning signs were there that it wasn't good. And that's part of the reason I left. Yeah.
That makes sense. And so as you went along, when you started to see the warning signs, did you kind of say, hey, I think you guys are making a bad decision? Or did you just kind of look, this is my job. I'll do what I got to do?
Spike was going away whether I felt like it or not. Spike was, the forces within Viacom.
That's true.
Were just big. I wonder what the hell am I going to do? I can't,
Right.
I think you should keep this network around. I don't know. It's not how it works, right?
That's true.
I did have a big issue, and I've said this many times, with the Legends fights. I didn't like them. Mm-hmm. I thought they were dangerous. I thought they were irresponsible.
Some of them were rough.
They were rough. And I was vocal behind the scenes about, man, these aren't good, man.
When they had Shamrock versus Gracie and they're both 50.
Yeah, and he kicks him in the nuts to win the fight. And in the post-fight interview, I said, there's some controversy about the low blow, kind of giving him an out. The referee didn't say stop. And he goes, I fight in the street. I don't care. And I'm like, he didn't even say, he just said, I don't, So yeah, there were a lot of things that were ugh, and they generated huge numbers for Bellator, and they stuck with it, in my opinion, a bit too long, and they don't do that anymore under the PFL banner. So I'm happy about that. So there was just a lot of things at the same time that made me not want to be there. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I remember watching that fight and just thinking like, this is not good quality MMA here. This is, but yeah.
And
But
the problem is that as a commentator, you're the one selling it. You're the one telling people you should watch May 14th when so-and-so takes on so-and-so. You're the voice going, here's why you should watch this. And when you don't believe that,
it's hard.
It's hard, man. Like, and also like, I got to keep my credibility in this space, right? So like, if you sell your soul to go, boy, this is going to be the greatest fight ever. When that promotion goes away, which Bellator did, they obviously got bad out. You're the guy that lied to the fans over and over. And it, like, you can't get that back. And so I was always put in that tough position of like, man, I don't throw it under the bus, but I didn't like the Legends fights. I didn't like what they were doing. I was really enthusiastic about, man, Pitbull and Douglas Lima and all these great fighters they had. But when they went with the Legends fights, it really put me in my opinion, a bad spot. And I didn't like it. And
yeah, I mean, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
I mean, and imagine how the reaction would have been if you were just like, look, they're having this fight this week and it sucks. I don't want to watch these two old guys fight. What are you supposed to do?
What am I supposed to do? Right. And then every time, it was like the ebb and flow of the fights, the Legends fights at the time was they'd put the fight on, it would happen, and the fans, it'd be so bad the fans would be like, this is fixed, and it's like every single time. Then you're dealing with the fallout of the results of the fight and all this stuff. And it was those were not fun at all to do.
Yeah, I can imagine. But yeah, so we're running out of time here. So let's go ahead and wrap this up. What are some things coming up that you want to just kind of put out there, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, man, I'm with ProBox TV at the moment, which is freaking awesome. They do a weekly thing, a daily show I do every day at the ProBox studio. So I host a boxing news show every single day on ProBox TV, and then we have a live fight every 2 weeks. They moved this week's to next week's because of the storm and everything, but and they just signed a deal with Conlon Boxing, which is a UK promotion. So I'm going to the UK a lot starting end of this year. I'm going to Ireland November 1st. I'm going back to Ireland December 7th. And then with this UK deal, probably once a month, I'm flying to the UK for a fight. And man, I'm just in the boxing world all the time. I finished out probably my last Bellator show of the year. And so we'll figure out what they want next year for Bellator. But right now it's ProBox TV and Bellator, man. Those are my main gigs, and they're a lot of fun, man. Love doing them. Love them.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. Love to hear it. Your video today, I love that. When you real quick, when you mentioned it was on YouTube, of course, when you mentioned the Jose Aldo take, when you said a lot of people were saying he still got it, and then you said he's about 70%, I was like, that clicks because he still looked good. And I was like, well, he does still have it, but does he still have it?
Yeah.
And I couldn't.
It's almost what I try to tell people is like, you don't know Jose Aldo. Like when you look at, I don't know how old you are if you were a fan of Jose in his prime, but
definitely.
The dude, when he blew away Mike Brown as a great fighter, I was like, whoa, the Cub Swanson flying knee crushed his face. So when you see him now and he's pretty solid, I'm like, man, he's
still good, but it's not
70% of Jose is still really good. Like it's better than 90% of 35ers. And that's such a compliment. But it's almost an insult when people go, he still got it. No, he doesn't. He leg kicked you and you went, ah! I've seen guys just like, oh my God, what just happened to my leg? So this guy that we're seeing now is 70% of that guy, and he's still good. Yeah.
Yeah, he's still fantastic. But like you said, like the Jose Aldo in his prime would not have been stuck at the cage. He would have been slamming leg kicks. And the dude
he would have crushed Batista. Absolutely. Yeah, and that's not an insult to Batista. It's just like he crushed a lot of guys back then. Yeah.
Yeah, he was undefeated for 10 years or something like that. It was like
unreal.
Stupid amount of time.
And not just undefeated. There's a certain, when you make your Mount Rushmore of MMA, and mine right now is John Jones, Anderson Silva, GSP, and Amanda Nunes. You weigh in that wow factor. And Jose Aldo had these moments where I went, you know what I mean? When he would throw stuff and you're like, can't believe I just saw that. Or combinations like, and you're like, holy crap. He had that kind of ability. And
he could blend it all.
Yeah. And I don't see that I don't see the snap. It's like boom, 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 boom. It's like almost like a sparring Jose Aldo. Like Maybe back then, if he's being nice to you in the gym at Novignon and was just feeling you out, nice and smooth, that's like him now in the octagon. Like, it's almost like prime Jose Aldo sparring, kind of. Yeah. So it's still damn good. I still would hate to spar with Jose Aldo.
Yeah, I was listening to that take actually as I was driving here today, and I remember I heard that and I was like, I got to mention that to him because I thought that was amazing. So I appreciate it. With that, I'll let you get out of here. Thank you so much for coming on. I do appreciate it. Hopefully the fans enjoyed, and I'll link your YouTube channel in the description. I'm sure anybody watching my channel knows your channel, but we're going to do it anyway. So
appreciate it, brother. You have a good one, man.
You too, brother. I'll catch you around.